I wrote about what was it? That scene in The Matrix where Cypher wants to plug himself back into the Matrix. And it was I actually rewrote an essay that I actually kind of embellished. I guess I kind of built on an old essay. But that scene in The Matrix is so philosophically pivotal to the plot of that story that I don't think people really appreciate. That's Judas selling out Jesus for 30 coins of silver, right? That's the moment where he sells out his friends. And for what? Because ignorance is bliss. He wants to go back into the Matrix where things are fake, and presuming the Matrix, like the Smith units won't just like kill him immediately. Yeah, exactly. Like you're very trusting here, you know? Lie. Yeah, like how do you know that they're not just going to kill you, right? But again, it's central to the plot, right? But I think it's interesting because like so many people experience something very similar to what Cypher does, like especially when they come into the quote unquote red pill, our intersexual dynamics and stuff. They want to go back to the way it was before. We lose the magic. This was the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the girls that was on the show with us on Access Vegas brought this up, and it was the same one that I was sort of having the back and forth with about instinct, emotion, and reason, which I'll get to in a moment. But she was talking about, and the crux, let's just say, of that conversation was she was locking horns with Mike. Now, Mike is very empirical. Mike is all reason. Like there's no room for emotions. And if there is, it's just so we can get to the next reasonable fact, right? I'm a little bit different from Mike in the sense that I understand the purpose and the function of emotion. And I'm okay with accepting parts of it, because if you're not accepting, like, okay, when I talk about instinct, emotion, and reason, those are all necessary elements of the human mind and our way of processing information that make us human beings. So I have in the past been criticized of being like too analytical, like I'm Mr. Spock, right? And in some cases I can be, right? But I leave that up to Mike now. I vibe with the girls. But Mike, like especially when we start talking about astrology and tarot cards, and that's actually why I did the thumbnail today. We start talking about crystals and vibing and energy and my feminine energy and I have to like clarify myself. And it's really hard to do with women, because if you try to, like, both Mike and I tend to default to empirical language. Like we use the language of reason, whereas the women are using the language of emotion, right? And so that's why we start talking past one another, because we're not speaking the same language, right? Now that's why I was pointing out, how emotion and logic clash within the dating world, right? Well, the dating world, especially for women, is generally predicated on emotionalism, on feels before reals, right? And that you want to know why we have such a good show on whatever, or not on Access Vegas, is because of that clash, is because of the emotionalism versus the rational and the empiricism. And that's what makes for a good conversation. People, why are you arguing with women, Rolo? Aren't you breaking your own rule? Well, I'm like, I don't have a rule like that. I'll argue with women all day long if I think that there's going to be a constructive conversation that comes from it. And even if I'm not going to change that woman's mind, as I said, maybe someone in the chat learned something. Hell, maybe I learned something, right? Oh, I've never had it put to me that way before. Let me readjust some things here, right? I am not above being educated by people who are not at my black belt level, yeah, exactly. Right? That's what I remember when, I've studied 3 forms of martial arts in my life. Okay. My first one was Taekwondo. And one of the things they tell you in like ATA, Taekwondo, it's the kid stuff. I understand. But one of the things they tell you is that a white belt can still teach a black belt something. Right? You can have a kid who like tries to do something because it seems like instinctual. It seems like the most obvious way to do it. And you're like, wow, if I hadn't seen you do that and somebody and another black belt in the ring with me would have done that, I would have got my ass kicked. Right. So the idea is that even the youngest can teach the oldest and the oldest can teach the youngest. Right. So that's why you have to sort of be open to those things. And I've always kind of took that to heart, thinking like, okay, if I talk to these girls, I'm having this conversation, I don't expect to win because there's no winning, right? But the conversation itself is still valuable because it might give me something along the way that I can use in a book, or that I can use to build up a different principle, or maybe it reinforces a principle that I already have that's existing, and I never thought of it that way. So there is reason to go and do those things. So when I do podcasts with like if people will hit me up and say, Rollo, we come on my podcast? Okay, sure. What's it about? Oh, it's about red pill stuff. Da, da, da. And you go and you look at the podcast and they've got they're under 1,000 subs. I'll still do it. I'll do your podcast, because I might learn something from a white belt.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll go and do it just if I think that there's going to be a really good conversation. So I think we kind of like handicap ourselves when we go, oh, she's just a ratchet 304. You don't want to have a conversation with her. But when Mike is talking with her, she's speaking from a position of emotionalism, and I knew where she was coming from. That clip that was at the very end of the video clips that I was putting out there. When I sort of reconsidered that little exchange, I stepped in at that point because I knew that there wasn't going to be any there's never going to be any sort of meeting of the minds between Mike and this girl, because she's talking about like emotionalism, and I've seen this happen before, so I knew where it was going. And she said something to the effect of like, well, your rationality and your science and your evolutionary psychology and Evo Bio, whatever, can't explain, everything about human beings. And, we're all individuals and we're all emotional beings. And we're in our feminine energy, and, Venus is aligned with Pluto. And so I saw that coming. And if you've read my 4th book, you probably know where I'm going with this. There was it's in the introduction of the book. Please go get religion. I spent 3 years of my life fucking doing that book, man. I mean, I'm glad you liked the first book, but I put a lot of work into book 4. But in the introduction of that book, I explain how imagination is still necessary. Like, I'm not I wouldn't want to be Mr. Spock, man. I like painting. I like drawing. I like imagining things. I think one of the reasons like a lot of people are frustrated with like Star Wars and like, all these offerings of like, the next Marvel movie or what, I think the reason why a lot of people are frustrated with modern fiction is because it sucks. That's number one. But they're frustrated because it's not imaginative. It's usually a hack of something else. By the way, I finally saw Alien Romulus, and I watched Alien Romulus, and it's good. I liked it. It was fun. It was a roller coaster. It was very reminiscent of Aliens, of the second movie, right? And I thought it was really good, and I understood all of the Easter eggs that were in there. Like the pulse rifle. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I remember that scene too. And they borrowed a lot from all of the movies, really. If you think about even Alien 3, like when the newborn at the end of spoiler alert, the newborn at the end of the movie, that's straight out of Alien. Or that's Alien 4, actually, is what that is. It's the last one with Sigourney in it. And I like how it tied up all the loose ends of the Prometheus movies, Alien Covenant, and it tied everything together, and it was great. But it didn't do anything new. I'm glad we've got all the bases are covered. I'm waiting for the sequel. I'm cautiously optimistic about the sequel. And the other thing that was great about it was they didn't use any big name actors.
Yes, I like that too.
It
didn't take away from
beautiful
the story.
Do that more, right? Because you're not expecting anything from you. You're not typecast. Mm-hmm. And then they used is it Ian Holm who was Ash in the first movie, the android, and that was like
CGI.
It was totally CGI. I was like, I believed it from
right?
Isn't Ian Holm dead? Yeah, he actually is dead. Yeah, that was, and they used his voice as likeness. That scared me more than anything else in the movie, because I know what the face huggers do. I don't know what this motherfucker's gonna do. Yes, but it was good because it's the reason why those movies, when they first came out, became franchises is because they were imaginative. And there's something about imagination is rooted in emotions, right? You want to know what's possible. And so the reason I was bringing up my 4th book is in the intro to that book, I think it's the Einstein quote, like what's more important, intelligence or knowledge or imagination. Of course, Einstein says, well, it's imagination. Like, no, it's both, because knowledge informs imagination. Imagination then informs knowledge, right? So, at least that's the way I look at it. So you can't, unless you know like what's possible, physically possible, then you can't imagine what could be possible. And I forget I think it might have been Westworld that brought this up. I think it was in the last season of Westworld, and they mentioned in there that there is actually a particular part of the human brain that is responsible for imagination and hope. And it's part of I think the midbrain. And you remove that, you remove the humanity from somebody. You remove somebody's ability to like experience emotion or experience reason too. You remove a part of their humanity by doing that. So I'm not willing to sort of just say like, oh well, emotions are unimportant. They're very, very important, but they're not a basis for building your fucking life off of, man, or building a body politic over, or a social order over. Feels before reals is a fucking failure. We need rationality and reason. It's not follow your heart, it'll never lead you astray. Bullshit. You want to know why we're in such a fucked up state right now? And thank God Trump's coming into office tomorrow or the day after. But wokeism, I brought this up too. Is like all this stuff about people keep talking about people finally feel safe to talk shit about wokeism, right? Or wokeism, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? I call them wokesies with a Z. A Z and an I. But people are finally feeling comfortable with really talking about the woke. And the more I see people are critical about woke ideology or woke social structures, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the more I see that it's really based on a feminine female psychology, psyche. And again, I brought it up in one. You want to know why I pick these clips? This is why I do. The one that I did of myself, where I'm wearing white and I'm on. It was a Danza project, by the way. Was because I was trying to explain the difference between how men structure and organize society versus how women structure and organize society. So men do it hierarchically, as you probably have heard me say a million times, and women do it in the round, right? That's why egalitarianism, that's why communitarianism, that's why socialism seems like a good idea to the female mindset, right? And if you disagree with that, you get canceled. We are the woke. You will do what we tell you. And the woke philosophy is primarily based on female psychology when it comes to organizing society. That's what I was getting into in that clip. And so, but what does that entail? It entails feels before reals. You want to know why we have DEI and the Los Angeles is burning? You want to know why? Why we still we've opened up combat and in military positions in the army or whatever, but no woman is taking it. Well, we want them to feel like they could. If you feel like you want to, do 4 pull-ups and fire an M16, whatever. I don't know what the weapon is of choice is today, but if you feel like you want to go and do that, you have the ability to do that. If you feel like you want to be a firefighter, yeah, well, but the problem is like when reality and empiricism smashes headlong into your feelings, you get the LA fires. you get what you call it? You get who was the boxer, the male boxer in female Olympic boxing? That's who you get as a result of that. So it's time we start looking at organizing society from a fundamentally hierarchical male perspective. Does that mean patriarchy? Maybe. Does that mean accepting responsibility and authority for men? Definitely. But when I see the clash between, and I get it, another reason why it's good to have these conversations with the girls here is you're not going to see that happen in any other format. You're not going to see this happen. So like if the girl at the end of the table, I wish I would have remembered her name. But when she's going at Mike, I'm trying to be the medium in here and say, hey, this is why you guys are having this clash right now, because you're speaking emotionalism and he's speaking rationalism or empiricism, whatever you want to call it. And then I explained to her how men process emotion differently than women do. And we know this now. We didn't before. Until we plotted the human genome, until we started taking evolutionary psychology seriously, evolutionary biology seriously, men and women are more dissimilar in our psyches, are more dissimilar than we are similar. And up until recently, people would fight me on that. And I remember as far back as like 2012, I made that observation. I said, we are more different than we are alike. People are like, oh, because I had like shit on their religion all of a sudden. And their religion is the blank slate. The religion is men and women can be anything they want to be. No, they fucking can't, right? I mean, I'm a 56-year-old white guy. I am not going to play power forward for the fucking Knicks, okay? That's not going to happen in my lifetime, okay? And I accept that. I'm good with that. I understand the empirical truth behind the reasons why that could never be. But it doesn't make me feel good. I want to be the power forward for the Knicks. Doesn't matter. Fuck your feelings, right? No one cares. See? Nobody cares. But so I'm trying to explain this to her, and I'm saying, look, men, like, I think one of the things that women have to have explained to them, and hope maybe this podcast will help them a little bit, is when I start talking about instinct, emotion, and reason, I generally like focus on emotion and reason because that's usually the point of conflict between men and women. Instinct is also very powerful too, I have to admit. But again, the way that we process emotions, like the way men process emotions, is entirely different than the way, especially negative emotions, is entirely different than how women do. That's why it makes me fucking sick to my stomach when I listen to like somebody like Justin Baldoni or these mealy mouth guys who want to tell you like, oh, this is what a real man is, or fucking what is it? Scott Galloway wants to tell you like, oh yeah, what was it? They did these polls. They did these polls. Of women, and you know what they found? They found that there are three top reasons why women are attracted to men. Number 3 was kindness. Really. Number 2 was intelligence. And number 1 was emotional availability, or fucking who knows, right?
Trauma.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, 6 foot tall, finance, blue eyes, trust fund. Did I miss one? I'm trying to make it rhyme. No, man. The dark triad personality traits, I can show you like dozens of studies how women just love. They like the bad guys, man.
They love being nagged.
They love, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, danger. They want danger, but they also want safety too, right? They want I could read you the Dalrock quote, the roller coaster, right? Women want danger. They want the roller coaster ride, but they want to also have assurances that if everything goes to hell, that some responsible adult is there to turn the machine off if things get too scary for them. That's what he referred to as the roller coaster ride. They want to be able to like drive the car at 140 miles an hour until it careens off the road, but then a parachute deploys at the last minute, right? Because they want that thrill, but they don't want it so much that it's actually dangerous, right? Because they want that thrill of feeling alive. This is my theory, nobody else's, but one of the reasons I think women are prescribed SSRIs, antidepressants, so much is because of that desire. Like, I'm unhappy. Happy. I'm leaving you, Bruce. Why? I'm unhappy. Well, first of all, happiness is bullshit. No one's ever going to be happy. You can only do happy. And half the reason why women are unhappy is because they're not doing jack shit, right? They're not doing happy. They're not doing things that make them happy. They think that if they take this pill, they'll be happy. If they drink more, they'll be happy. If they do this, they'll be happy. The happiness is not ladies, if you're watching this, happiness is not a permanent state. I'm sorry that pop culture has convinced you that you are deserving of a lifetime of endless nirvanic happiness. That's not how happiness works. Happiness is a proximate state. It's a proximate goal, a proximate outcome. It's not an ultimate outcome. There's no happiness at the end of the rainbow. I'll be married, I'll be happy. No, you fucking won't, because you have to do happy. You can do things that will make you feel happy, right? Because happiness is an emotion. And that's what I was trying to explain to this chick down at the corner here, is that emotions are are fleeting. They're a way that emotions are just a way we process information and stimuli from the outside world, right? How do I feel about the saber-toothed tiger that's about to eat me? I'm fucking scared, man. I'm that fear. That's a base emotion. I am fucking afraid that I'm going to die, right? Or the Black Panther is going to jump out of the dark jungle at night, or the snake or the spider is going to be in the baby's room and kill the baby. The dingoes are going to come and eat your baby. Fear is an emotion. Happiness is an emotion. Sadness, anxiety, depression, it's all emotive states. And what are they meant to do? They're meant to move you from one physical state to another. And usually it has to do, as I said, with either survival or reproduction. Okay. So you want to know why you get hangry? Because the anger part of that, the frustration part of the hunger, the angry part of hungry, is what motivates you to go and run down small prey, right? It's what motivates you to go out to, damn it, I'm just going to go get in the car and go to Taco Bell. Burrito Supreme, here I come. But that's what would you do it for? If it wasn't hangry, let's just say it was like chillery, right? Would you get up to go do it and go eat? No, because you're gonna die if it was anything other than like being frustrated or like motivating you to get out of your fucking recliner to go down to Taco Bell. No, what else would it be? I'm sad. I'm sadry. If hunger made you sad, you die. You just be dead. You can't pair hungry with anything else except for anger. Because that's what motivates you to go get it, right? So once again, I realize this, I'm being facetious, but the point of emotion is to move you from one state to another state, and those states either have to do with survival or reproduction. So I'm trying to explain this in as entertaining a fashion as I possibly can, because you got to make it storytelling with women. You can't tell them data and stats, as much as like me and Mike try to do this foolishly try to do this on occasion. We can bury you in stats and Dr. David Buss, everybody drink. We can bury you in data, and women's eyes, they'll just be, yeah, okay, whatever. The show's back on. So you try to make it somewhat relatable, but again, it's feels before reels. And when I was explaining how emotions aren't like magic fairy dust that falls out of the fucking hot heavens, or how emotions are not magic. One of the things that I hear all the time from women is like, I was vibing with this guy. All you're saying is you're trying to give a name to the emotion that you're feeling when this guy is talking to you, and you guys are connecting sort of in a conversation. I can break down the scientific side of the empirical side of like why you feel the way you do because of this conversation, but women have to give a name to it. And the name is vibing, right? Or, I'm in my feminine energy and he's in his masculine energy, right? All that means is that a guy is conventionally masculine. His behaviors show that he has a dominant personality. He's in shape. He looks good. He knows his shit. He understands his own value, all this. But then they're not going to enumerate all those things that I just did. So they call it your masculine energy, feminine energy. And one of the things that I wrote about, again, this is also from my fourth book, Religion. I already made mention of the principle of knowledge versus imagination. I think they're equally important. One feeds the other, and vice versa. The other thing I put in there was a great quote, and it's by Arthur C. Clarke, who is a science fiction writer and during the 50s and 60s, also a futurist. Okay. And one of the things he wrote about, or one of the quote that I always come back to that I put in the book, is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if we don't understand something, our imagination kicks in and we say it's the gods, right? Or we say it's the spirit world, or we say it's a ghost of Aunt May, right? Or whatever it is. Like, for instance, as I was saying before, masculine energy, feminine energy, that's all that is a sufficiently advanced technology for women who can't really grasp or understand the magic of vibing with that guy. So one of the things I think that pisses women off a lot about the red pill and a lot about guys, well, certainly guys like Mike, but me included as well, is that we probably stupidly try to explain the game to women rather than playing the game with women. And that's something that I've learned to be very sort of diplomatic about, because what happens is this, is if I'm talking to one of the girls here and I start vibing with her and it seems like I'm agreeing with what she says, like guys who are my worst critics is like just these spurgs come out of the woodwork. And like, I can't believe Rollo is simping for that girl. I'm not simping with that girl. I'm vibing with that girl. Because I know the science behind it. I know the mechanics behind it. I also know that women would rather play the game than be told that they are playing a game. And here's what the game you're playing. And here's what you're going to say next. And here's why because I'm an alpha male and you're responding to my machismo and blah, blah, blah. I can, nuts and bolts and turn it into a mathematical equation. But that tastes like shit to women who speak emotionalism and not empiricism. It's not satisfying. It's not, it's like watching shitty science fiction, right?
They want to stay plugged in.
Yeah. I'm speaking empiricism and they're speaking magic. And unless I can like sort of turn that empiricism into something magical, then we don't have that communication going on there. Right? I used to get really frustrated with Hotep Jesus, right? Because I remember back in like 2021, 2022, when I was doing interviews, I was doing like tag team shows with Hotep on Fresh and Fit, and I was Mike on that show, right? I was Mr. Wizard. I'm the guy who has all the stats and all the psychology and all this. I'm sitting there in a lab coat, right? and Hotep Jesus understands everything that I'm saying. But when he interacts with the girls, it's just like he throws some dreadlocks on you, throws that smile on you, and fucking like he's like, "Yeah, girl, I understand what you're saying. I'm vibing with you. We'll get, And he just like he's smooth as fucking goose shit, man. And the girls react to it and they respond to it. He knows everything I know. He's just delivering it in a language that they can appreciate. Me, on the other hand, I'm going, well, here's the game and here's what you're playing. Oh, okay, Mr. Wizard. And there's no magic to that. And that was one of the things that I told the girls. I said that on Access Vegas. I said, the problem that you're having is like, because I'm explaining this to you, it destroys the magic that you want to have. And one of the girls even said, yeah, you're right. Because it dispels all of this, imagination. It dispels the emotional investment in it. I used it on today's thumbnail or when I was broadcasting today's show. One of my quotes is no man has ever reasoned a woman into bed. You can emotionally bring her into your bed, but you're never going to reason her into bed. That's gamma male thinking, right? That's like, that's Excel spreadsheet thinking is what it is. Like, okay, I check all of these lists here. Look, I'm in great shape. My body fat percentage is at 12%. I've been taking trend for the last year. I'm highly intelligent. I have 4 degrees.
Here's my resume.
Here's my resume. Yeah, here's my Excel. Yeah, here's why you should fuck me today. I guarantee you are not getting laid. Guarantee it. Right? If you make Excel spreadsheets to explain why you're the best selection for and guys do this. People keep talking about this movie that was in the 80s. It was called, is it The Last American Virgin? I think it was. Or it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You don't care if she stays, lays, prays, or stays or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But they're like trying to dig up all of these quotes from these old Brat Pack movies from the 80s, which I really enjoy, Breakfast Club and shit like that. But one of those I think was Last American Virgin, and then they started pulling quotes from Last American Virgin. They go, "Look how red pill these Generation X guys were." yes, we were. We knew what we were getting into because we were interested in getting laid. That's why Gen Z don't care. They just want to sit at home and fucking stroke off. Man.
Look at my portfolio. Are you wet yet?
Or there was always the Anthony Michael Hall character, yes. Right? What Weird Science? We've got to make it was Kelly LeBrock. We got to build Kelly LeBrock to make our tits bigger. But the principle of it, anyways, was very much rooted in that gamma male want for trying to scientifically figure out what it is that chicks want, so that guys could be that, and then say, "Look, we polled 1,000 women to ask them what they're looking for in a guy, right? And they want him to be 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, 6-pack abs, 10-inch finance, blue eyes, whatever, blah, 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 right? And then they embody all of this, and they still go fuck the bad boy at the party, right? Because you are speaking the language of empiricism with your Excel spreadsheet, and Chad, or whoever the fuck, Ryler, Brock the bartender is speaking the language. Hotep Jesus is speaking the language of fucking of emotionalism, and they get it, and they look good, and they're probably doing everything on the spreadsheet, but they're delivering it in a much different fashion, in a language that women can understand.